Hey, what's up? It's your boy Casual, and tonight's short story is a podcast episode number 1 for the podcast series Silas Nighstalker. The episode title is The Moon's Vengeance and a Bounty Collected. Starting, the moon hung low in the sky, fat, full, and hungry. It painted the forest in a ghost-light silver, the kind of moon that pulls the monsters from their graves and memories of their crypts. To begin this story, I feel it only proper to introduce myself. Welcome. I am Silas Nighstalker. I am a werewolf and a bounty hunter. I am a monster among monsters. And on this night, I was not chasing gold. I was chasing blood. So I was hunting an elusive foe named 𝕬𝕠𝕝𝕦𝕬𝕠. She was a blood elf sorceress with blades that whispered death. The villagers spoke of her with trauma and shaking lips. In the village, children had vanished, homes had been set aflame, and many men and bounty hunters would never return. The Order of the Bounty Hunters Guild offered coin for her head. However, all the hunters before me had failed, including my brother, my youngest brother. 𝕬𝕠𝕝𝕦 murdered my brother. That was a debt soaked in blood, and on this night, I was there to collect. Now the story begins in the twilight hours of this cursed realm. The howls of beasts were drowned out by even darker cry, the cry for vengeance. For 87 nights her crimes echoed through ruined kingdoms. Entire noble houses were turned to ash. Blood pacts sealed with screams, and once holy relics were corrupted by 𝕬𝕠𝕝𝕦's touch. Her name was etched into bounty parchments, whispered by terrified villagers, and cursed in every hunter's hall. The Haunted Forest. The scent of 𝕬𝕠𝕝𝕦 lingered, like perfume and poison, a mix of scorched lilac and copper. The forest floor beneath my feet crackled with frost. This was a place long abandoned. Its trees were twisted in agony. Branches were like skeletal fingers clawing at the sky. There I knelt, brushing my fingers against a crushed wildflower. I had found her scent. Her trail was fresh. And then I heard a rustle above. I spun, with my rifle aimed, but only to catch a mocking illusion of 𝕬𝕠𝕝𝕦's face, forming in a swirl of crimson mist. It laughed before it vanished. Her magic toyed with me as it had done for weeks. She thinks she's clever, I growled to myself, my voice like gravel over steel. She forgot what happens when the prey marks the predator. As the forest turned to fog, I could see the mountains just ahead, a difficult pass, but her scent continued, so therefore must I. I whispered an incantation, a spell to see into the spirit realm, an incantation known to only a few special trackers. Once active, my eyes glowing with lupine blue, began to see these invisible tracks. These spirit trails were lit in a ghastly view before me. The hunt had entered the next phase. The Frozen Mountains. As I began my journey through the frozen mountains, where the bitter cold scraped through my armor and into my bones, the days bled into each other. I climbed the cliffs with frozen hands. Frost coated my armor. Needing the strength no human could muster, I took my feral form, a werewolf among the frosted wasteland. Blizzards threatened to tear the flesh from my very bones, but still I pressed on. At night I slept, curled around a flickering and warding fire, with only my rifle in my arms to accompany me like a lover. At the break of dawn I howled, attempting to make the blood boil and some warmth, calling to the winds to guide me. Then I found her trail in blood. I came upon the frozen remains of 3 dead mercenaries. These were hired swords from the Broken Blade Brotherhood. Their bodies were frostbitten and showing signs of terror. They were arranged in a sigil only those who have studied blood magic would recognize. And I had. Was this a warning? Perhaps a challenge? Either suited me, as I found no fear after studying these remains. Standing atop the highest ridge, overlooking the shattered kingdom below, I finally saw her again, a flicker of her crimson cloak moving in the wind. I bolted. She will not get away again. Bounding across jagged rocks, I leapt like a beast reborn. Snow kicked up behind me in a blizzard of fury. Ilaria turned briefly, her eyes glowing like twin rubies. She cast an earthly spell that cracked the very cliff face I was standing on. But I managed and surged through it with brute strength, ignoring the gashes that were torn already in my armor. Still, she vanished again, this time through a portal woven from bone dust and moonlight magic. Again, I had failed against a sorcerer's magic, after failing to close in on the portal this time. Instead, I landed in the snow, watching it close before me, panting, cold, distraught. But before the portal closed, I had seen a glimpse of where it had led. I had been there before. Now I knew. She had gone to the ruins, so I began making my way down the mountain to the ruins. The ruins. The ruins rose like teeth from the earth. The ruins was a place spoken of only in half-truths and fearful tavern tales. A city swallowed by time and necromancy. Here the dead did not sleep. They whispered. Upon arriving at the outskirts of the ruins, I moved through the shadows with deadly silence, only lit by my rifle, glowing as its runes responded to the thick, oppressive magic in the air to light my way. It was nightfall, dark, and as if all light had been darkened by some magic. A spell of darkness wrapped these ruins. I saw crumpled statues of forgotten gods, looming just ahead. As the statues' blind eyes watched me, the trespasser. Then, laughter, echoing, melodic and cold. There she was. She stepped from the dark like a flame in the void. Ilaria, wrapped in crimson armor, her skin as pale as the very moonlight, her eyes burning with wicked intent, and her mouth smirked as if she was amused by the upcoming battle. "You came all this way for what, beast?" she taunted. Her daggers appeared like fangs in her hands, each crackling with cursed enchantments. And full of rage and pure hatred, again I charged. The fight was a dance to the death. Claws met steel. Magic met raw fury. During the engagement, I took a blade through the shoulder, snarling as blood soaked my armor. I responded by slamming her into a ruined pillar, cracking it in half. She screamed a curse that summoned spectral warriors from the earth. In my rage, I tore through them like parchment. They only slowed me down. The battle spiraled deeper into the temple's heart, a chamber lit by ghost fire and shattered mirrors. I must proceed cautiously here, as 𝕬𝕠ria's power is at its strongest. But I had a few tricks up my sleeves. As a bounty hunter, I knew a few things. I dropped a silver warding charm onto the floor. This was blessed by the church. Once met with her magic, it exploded with holy fire, dispelling her illusions and weakening her sorcery. This was my chance. I lunged. She stood poised, her blades glinting, my own blood soaking in the blades. Her crimson eyes locked onto mine, and I growled, "𝕬𝕠ria, tonight the hunt ends." 𝕬𝕠ria said mockingly, "Ah, Silas Nighstalker, still wearing the scent of failure. Come, let's see if your blood howls like your brother's did." In a rage, I surrendered to the beast. My bones shattered, muscles ripped apart and all rebuilt. My skin tore, fur erupted. By magic, my armor enlarged to match my new form. My howl split the sky and left even the moon fearful of what I had just become. Then the hunter became the monster. She struck first, blades singing with ancient spells. One cut across my chest. It sizzled, even cauterized it with elven flame. I retaliated with my claws out, eyes burning. Her armor split under my fury. She summoned a wall of flame. I leapt through it. The fire was licking at my fur. We became shadows and sparks, twisting through the firelight like war gods. I said, snarling, "You'll answer for him." 𝕬𝕠ria rebutted, "Let me send you to him." She then incanted something vile. The ground cracked, roots lashed like whips. One wrapped around my throat, another my legs. For the moment, I was bound. She moved in for the kill. Thinking victory was all but won, she whispered quietly, "Goodbye, beast." But the beast was not done. I broke free. I surged forward, ripping through the roots. My claws had found her, midair. We crashed to the ground. She conjured a wall of ice, and I shattered it. She drove a blade into my side as I drove my fangs into her shoulder. Flames engulfed us both. I didn't care. My blood was boiling, and the pain almost unbearable. But I in a rage kept tearing. 𝕬𝕠ria screamed. Enraged I howled. We had become elven fire, blood, and pain. She whispered one final incantation, but her words faltered. I growled in low, primal, guttural, "No more spells, witch." I pinned her to the stone floor. My blood-soaked claws were nipping at her throat. In all haste, 𝕬𝕠ria said, "Do it," she hissed. "Finish it." Through all the pain and rage, I managed to stop myself from ending that elf. I decided to take her alive, to suffer the consequences of her actions, because death was too kind. So I leaned in, so close to her face, as if going to kiss her. My razor-sharp teeth and breath were steaming. "This isn't the end for you, elf." In a low growl I said, "You'll answer for what you've done, and my brother's spirit will finally be at rest as you suffer the final moments of your miserable life." Then, with silver cuffs burning her wrists, I howled, calling the order of the Bounty Hunters Guild to assist in transporting the prize. And then, finally, silence. There was just blood on the earth, steam on the grass, and the moon still watching. Now would begin the dangerous journey home. Though having no real home, the village inn for a hot meal, mead, and temporary place to rest, that was home enough for me. The long journey back with Ilaria and the Hunters Guild in tow could be in and of itself fraught with danger. The wind howled across the moors, dragging the scent of old blood and dying magic. We trudged through the endless sludge of mud and melted snow, my broad silhouette casting a long shadow beneath the sticky orange glow of the rising sun. My coat, black with gold filigree, was torn and crusted with gore. The once sharp lines of my armor now hung ragged around my muscular frame, battle-worn from days of ceaseless struggle. Behind me, the constant sound of her iron chains that clanked with magical enchantments depleting her magic. Ilaria, the blood elf sorceress, limped, her beauty dimmed by exhaustion and defeat. Any attempts to break free was foiled by the magic imbued on the chains. Her crimson cloak was nothing more than a shredded banner trailing in the muck. Her eyes, once full of cruel delight, now stared coldly ahead, silent. For several days we had crossed the haunted forests, forged frozen rivers, fought in ancient ruins, and walked the corpse-littered valleys, where she had left corpses behind, where whispers clung to trees like frost. And now, at long last, the outline of the village. I saw the fog arise, nestled in the throat of the valley, its crooked chimneys belching smoke, and its kind people who now would not suffer at the hands of magic and this elf. I could see the inn was bustling with life, and tucked neatly inside the center of the village, inside the walls. I could see the smoke from the inn's chimney fire. I could smell the aroma of the fresh cooked food and see the glowing from the windows. I was so close, but seemingly still felt so far away. My weariness and exhaustion began to creep into my mind. My cold bones and wounds remind me that though I had made it back safely with the elf in tow, that the healing process would be lasting. Before entering the village, I took time to transform back into human form. Though the people saw me as a hero, I felt it better to appear in a less threatening form. They had seen enough. I believed it eased their minds. Upon reaching the gates of the city, with my captive and bounty hunters following close behind, I was met by 2 guards at the village gates. One standing before them, they stood frozen as if they had just witnessed the entire battle that took place. They knew what struggle I had just been upon. Now Ilaria's chains dragged through the slush and then on to village streets. We had arrived. One of the guards was young, without visible scars, and too clean to know real suffering. He tried to speak, but only managed a stammer. I said nothing. I simply handed over the sealed bounty scroll, marked with the silver sigil of the Order of the Bounty Hunters Guild. Recognition dawned in the guard's eyes. He finally spoke. You're Silas Nighstalker. My only response was a low growl and a passing glance that said more than any words could ever. Upon entering the village and handing off Ilaria to the city guards, alone I walked to the inn, using up all the strength my human form had left. The barkeep, having seen me hand over the elf and turn in my hunter's scroll to the city guards, he slowly approached the table that I had sat in, nearest to the fire, to finally warm myself. Then, without saying a word, and observing my wounds and battle-torn armor, it was obvious that this challenge was hard. He simply nodded and went to get food and ale. Seated at a table, tucked away in the farthest and darkest corner, was the bounty master, an old dwarf missing 2 fingers and most of his ethics, nodded as he shoved a leather-bound pouch full of coin across the table. He spoke. She's been a ghost story for a long time, the dwarf muttered, his eyes pointing to where Ilaria now sat in an enchanted iron cell beneath the guild hall, the only structure that could keep her bound. Didn't think anyone would catch her. Thought you were dead, after a runner returned from seeing you two and the battle rage. Slowly, I picked up the pouch. I needn't say a word. I didn't have to. By dusk, the village was quiet. Snow fell lightly now, covering the bloodstains and the broken earth with a merciful sheet of white, as if the battle had not even taken place. Alone I sat at the Sable Flame Inn, tucked into my corner under the hearth. The fire crackled low and warm, like it had nothing to prove. Shadows danced along the stone walls, flickering across hunting trophies, faded banners, and old war relics forgotten by time. My rifle leaned against the stone beside him, polished but showing signs of battle wear. A tankard of dark ale rested in my hand, untouched for now, as I just sat and stared into the fire, not blinking, not moving, stuck inside my mind. Somewhere behind me, laughter rang out. Drunk villagers celebrating another evil elf put down and another bounty paid. But I didn't join them. I had walked through nightmares, seen horrors, clawed through the veil, and battled a blood elf who could twist time itself. Now, I just wanted peace. The kind only ale, rest, and flame at a hearthstone, shadow could offer. And so I sat, my eyes tired, the glow of the fire flickering in my ice-blue gaze. No words, just embers, and a long, slow breath of a werewolf who fought, earned for now at least one peaceful night. I thought quietly in my mind, they say vengeance will give you peace, but all I feel is less. Not whole, not healed, just empty. Still the moon calls, and there's always another hunt. The end. This has been Silas Nighstalker, Episode 1, The Moon's Vengeance and a Bounty Collected. Next time, Silas faces a different bounty, this time at the Clockwork Citadel, and the haunting voice of someone long dead. Until then, stay sharp and do not stray from the moonlit path. I would appreciate everyone who's listened to like, follow, and subscribe on Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you all very much. Peace out.